All right, let us start. So first of all, I will share the link so there are no surprises. That is what we're going to talk about. And share the screen, by the way. Let's do that. All right, so you see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and you will see the webinar outline in a second, right here. And the one that we want is this security. And I will give you that link right here on chat. Here is the link on chat. And I allowed everybody to talk, but I didn't verify talking. So I'm talking to everyone, and you can all talk to each other. And just to make sure, here is the link. Okay, so you should have the access to that. And if you click, then I will see a little icon coming up here like anonymous. And that reminds me of the last course that I taught. I taught them not to get phished, and they immediately applied it to me. So whatever question I would ask my students, they would right away say, no, we're not answering. That's a phishing question. But they were nice guys, and they said, okay, but friendly answer is this. That's what happened. But I'll tell you honestly, the result of my previous class was this. I love the class. It's a well-written class. Well, okay, I wrote it myself, but it's still a good class. I don't say that about every class, but I don't teach it often enough. That was my problem. I realized that I would, okay, I would really need to practice it. That will be much more fun if I do. And since I have the other two webinars already on Friday, it's quantum computing and AI, then I thought there's a natural place for the secure coding webinar. Secondly, right here, I will show you every session that I do. I plan to give you a little outline of what we're going to do. So you will have, at the beginning of the week, you will have what the session will be about. Like this one says security news, security course overview. That's not telling you much, but at least it is a good introduction. Later on, it will be more specific because we will be more specific. Next thing is that there is a folder right here. So if you click there, you will see, well, you will see all of the materials from the course. So giving it out, giving it away, because I'm feeling that that's the world we live in. All the information is free. And when I'm teaching the course, they're paying me kind of for babysitting time. But the materials, they're quite available. And really, it's learning together. That's what counts. So that's what this is. And whenever I need additional materials, I will drop them all into this folder and it will be here. Okay. So the next thing is to start. Here, that's an advertisement blurb about what this webinar is about, but that's, I would call it a seminar. Maybe doesn't matter how you call it, but it is from 1 to 2. There is a recording, so I would assume that you are new guys and you don't know the standard rules is that everybody talks when they want and interrupts each other, and that's the materials, and that at the end there is a recording that will come to you automatically later on. That's all. So let us start. We'll start from security news, and I'll give you the course overview. So the best way to get the course overview is to look at what I have in the folder. So let us do this. Let's close all the other that we don't need, and Let's open this one and let's sort them. So first of all, that first one is secure coding. Let's maybe, okay, once downloaded, okay. Okay, that is, I think it's a table of contents. Slideshow from start. It's a table of contents, but it's a good idea to go through what we're going to do. So we'll have a good idea of what we will cover. And essentially, I'm taking the course and converting it to a series of webinars, which, if you look at the numbers, 3-day course, 24 hours would be 24 webinars, but I'm sure there will be many more because every time we'll look at the news, what were the latest news and some interesting things. So I think it is a permanent webinar that will be regular. And first we talk about that it is an interesting area security that is for introductory to intermediate students, and we want to know more about security, but I'll be very specific that you don't need to know anything. You need to be curious, otherwise you wouldn't come here. And that first we'll look at, let's look at threats. Let's look at who's attacking me, how they're attacking me. That's a little boring, but if we're serious about security, we'll have to do it. And that's basically three areas. Area number one, who's attacking me, the land of the lay of the land. Number two is how should I code? And number three is forget what I told you, and that's how you should really code using secure frameworks. So stop doing what you are doing and start using secure frameworks. But all of them are needed. That's my plan. That's what I want to do. And next is common attacks, and that some of these come with an enormously fun lens, and the special common attacks where I will lead you through how exactly the hack works, but in practical fashion. I'll give you a machine that is vulnerable, and it's a virtual machine, and you'll be able to imitate what the hacker does. If you're familiar with the Goat Labs, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Goat Labs. And then we'll talk about the design that should be secure from the start. Usually people talk about security is the first thing, but really it is the last thing on their mind. So how do you more or less think of security from the beginning, if you can? What are the countermeasures? And you will yourself tell me how valid, how interesting that is. But then come the modern security frameworks. Don't do it yourself, but rely on these, which are mostly Vault and Console. Vault is for storing your secret, and Console is for making sure that your components talk to each other and nobody listens. So Vault is for leave security for the pros, and Console is the zero trust network, where no component trusts any other component. All right, that's the plan. Now, I will actually ask you this question. Not here, but that was an outline. But I want that to go away, and it doesn't want to. Here, I'm going back to the folder. And I'm looking at number 2. That's about the class, and that's where we get to know each other. So let us download that. Yes. Download. And having downloaded, let us open that. And I already told you 3 major areas: security introduction, coding, and framework. So I expect that to be an ongoing and freestyle. I hope you will be telling me something that you do, what problems you encounter, because otherwise you can just read the slides. And I repeat what I said and some jokes, but we're coming to right here. Who are you? So your name I already see, but on the level 1 to 4, how familiar are you with security? That I don't know. So I will ask you to do this. I will copy this question out of the slide right here, and I will put it on the chat. And that will help me talk. Oh, and it still didn't ask everyone. Here you are. Okay. Now, it could be you don't want to give me the answer because you will say that's a fishing question. Mark, I'm not telling you. Okay, maybe you'll go there, but at least one answer I got. Lauren said 2. For the rest, let us start. Because many people expect to start with some introduction, and that's exactly what I will do. So closing this and downloading the introduction, and that's more or less fun. So let us go. Where's the download? Here. There you are. All right. So here's another joke. Why was the sysadmin not found? Now, that joke, even though it is a bad joke, but I didn't invent it, I got it from the favorite show that I recommend definitely so. Well, the reason he was not found was because he ran somewhere. And we'll talk about ransomware, which was just as important 2 years ago as now, except that it became maybe a bit more stable. Ransomware is a standard way of doing business, and that's the first things that we study. Now, since I mentioned that there is a show, then I will put that thing on the class right away. So the show happens to be on Risky Biz. And you get there like this. Now I'm giving it to you here on the webinar file. And I do it like that. That's because it is really the best news. Now, I have been listening for a while. If you look at them right here, you will notice that it's every week. But you will also notice that sometimes it's more than one a week and sometimes it's less. Well, that's because they have two streams mixed together. So I only advocate one of them, one of those streams. And since the essential, the way that they talk to you is through podcasts, what you do is you go to podcasts. Now I use podcast. Oh, sorry about those two different profiles, but I need to be in my other profile. Then it will know me and things will work better here. So if we go to podcast on Google, okay, and then they see what today it's the only show that they subscribe to. And for a little while, and a little while lasted for 2 years, Google messed up the two flows, and there were many more shows a week than you would care for. So now recently they have fixed it. So now you see that these go more or less one a week, and that's the podcast that I would recommend. Risky Business comes as a podcast, but that I'm not writing down. You can see it, get it, and you know, what we can do is for 1 second. You're giving me another one. Oh, unbelievably nice. Let's do this. Lawrence was at a very nice conference, but what I will do is copy his stuff, okay? And I will, where is it? I will put it as our next thing to do. Lawrence already knows what I'm usually doing. That will be the next session, right? So here I'm writing what we need to cover in the next session. And really what I mean is this. I'm copying the whole thing so that whoever comes here knows what we're talking about, okay? And I change the date, and that becomes preparation for our next session. Okay. But let's go back to where we were. We were talking about Risky Biz. We said that they have a wonderful podcast, and what I was going to do is stop my share and reshare again. And maybe I should do this every time I share. I should right away do it with the sound. But here we are. We can start from any of these shows. And I cannot say enough about how good those shows are. But first, let's click on the podcast. And we will right here. Let's look at the latest. Now something's wrong. It shouldn't start like that.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Risky Business. My name's Patrick Gray, and this week's show is brought to you by Push Security. They are a funded startup,
and so on. You heard it, so you could listen to it every week. But let's go back. So that was my personal introduction. Let's go back to the slides. That's where I got the bad joke from them. So they also apologized for the bad joke, but let's go and become more real. Ransomware attacks. It turns out that this ransomware attacks, by the way, that's old slide in the sense that it's done in 21. But if you go to the right link, we'll see it today. That's very real. And you can click on any of these and see the summaries. So that's where it is. So let's do it. Let's click there. Okay, and let us also take that link and let's put it in our webinar. Because whatever we do and whatever we mention, that should be good for others. So we said here, we are doing the news. We did the overview, but we will also do this. Okay, and you can click on that link and get there. And we will go back to that same link. That's what we will do. Okay, so that is the site that updated daily, that has a current information on the text. And I think if we look at it and won't be lazy, like, oh yeah, I know that all. But really look at it, it will be good for us. So what we see is the number of attack. You see 2,500, and that's today, going on today. Average ransom, 2 million. That's a lot of money. And total records affected, that's already technical, how much they stole. And this is the map that's live, where you can go and include this or not include this. Well, let's try just this year. So let's say not all, but only this year. Ransom paid. Maybe let's do yes. That's interesting. That the picture, it claims that's the real picture. If I refresh, will it keep my choices? No, it doesn't. So what happens when I remove a year after year? I would expect the plot to refresh. Well, it looks like, I'm not sure if it is immediately refreshing. Maybe it's not changing that much. What you also see here is the plot by numbers, by month, year, industry, business, education, government, healthcare. So we'll talk about what to do about this. If you're talking to a person who is interested in his business to prosper, well, we'll tell him, here's a list of advice. Maybe you should do it today. It's like think of a bank, and maybe you should lock the door unless you really want everybody to come. That is a valid approach, wanting everybody to come. But most people will not subscribe to it. I'll tell you one story that was a Zen story, that the guy robbed a certain Zen monk, and the monk gave him all his clothing and was just sitting and using that. It's so sad that he even give the robber the light of the moon. Well, that's a Zen story. It's very good for enlightenment. The same story is probably told in the religious context, where the guy robs some advanced person, and the person says, oh, you worked so hard to rob me, so let me give you another present. Okay, but most people are not like that, and most people will want to protect against this. So these are the numbers that will totally convince everybody that it is important. So it's not a question of if, but when. And therefore, what you should ask yourself is, how prepared I am. When it comes, what am I going to do? That's a nice thing. And we looked at it enough, I think. And let's go back to the slides, because what we're doing is a freestyle. Since we are, by the way, that's where you find this secure coding, which you probably know, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. Okay, so let's go back to our slides, and we said that's what this slide is telling. Now, that is my personal story, which I will tell you just because you maybe don't know it. And it's okay to tell it once. And yes, it is personal, and yes, you're a captive audience. But so this Jeremiah Grossman, his biggest ambition used to be, he was a chief security officer at Yahoo. And he tells an interesting story about how it happened. He's also a karate fighter, as you can see. And I found that it is very often going together, that security people are interested in martial arts. So therefore, I'm here in the chat. And I will ask you the question, anybody is into martial arts? There you are. Nobody? Nobody. Okay, that's not the rule. That I like watching the movies, okay? Okay, but Jeremiah definitely is. Brazilian judo, I think it's his favorite thing, and I'm adding everybody to possibility to talk. So he came and he showed live hacking. That was amazing. How you could infect sites, sharing the screen in the Microsoft auditorium with his Apple computer. Amazing. But he gave a lesson. Nothing was just blah blah. One lesson is that I personally use the lesson that I should take my son to be impressed. So my son became a security consultant. But his lesson was that you cannot be completely secure. It's money. So you just be more secure than the other guy, and the hackers will go to the other guy. Business people, they're working on ROI, rate of investment, return on investment. So that's what you do. And we will look at the security and how to build it better. And they will go somewhere. Maybe it's not nice. Another way is to pay Grossman. Now he is not in this business. He is doing something else. But security protection, it's very similar to mafia, right? You pay the guys so that no bad gentleman goes into your rose bush. That's not a joke. And that's another lesson. All right, but probably the last thing, because I feel like maybe I'm bored, but the last thing that I will show you here is one of the very influential hackers. His name is Greg Q. Obviously, that's a handle, but he has a presence in the face. That's him. That's his email, right? And that is his Twitter. So you can subscribe to that. He was followed by 100,000, but now it's much more, I'm sure. Whenever I took the picture, who knows? And he gives a simple advice that if you're a hacker, then you need to be very careful because, as I like to say, FBI is after you. So FBI has many people, and it's their job. But you want life, and you want a family, maybe, and you need to be very careful not to get under the radar. What you do is you create a cover. Before you start being any kind of a hacker, any kind of freedom fighter, let's say, you create a cover or new persona. That maybe is done for you as a service, and maybe you have to do it. Then you work on the complete legend so that whoever touches your profile, he sees history, background, supporting evidence, so it looks quite real. And then you never contaminate. So you never go into a Starbucks and pay with your blockchain money, Bitcoin, if you don't want the people to know who you are. And you never accidentally hack from your computer, God forbid, but you always go through a chain of computers and so on. So you fulfill all these rules, and these are called OPSEC, Operation Security. And I'm not inviting you to be a hacker. I'm inviting you to be a protection person, but that's what the hackers do. They want to stay out of prison. They use all of that. And we'll talk about what else they do. That is what I wanted to show you as who is on the other side, who is attacking. It's these guys who are attacking, and that's one good source to keep up with the news. Okay, but practically saying it is boring, because if you're a developer, you know you're praised for new great features and everybody is excited. But if you're more secure, nobody knows about that until the time that they hack you, and then they know. And therefore, you can do all of that, and we'll talk about this. You can do all of the protections and encryptions, and you're not blamed, but this is so boring. So my idea is that when you're learning that, either you become part of a team, and that team is either one side or the other, the blue or red team, and I think there is a purple team, okay? Or in your mind, at least in your mind, you think, I'm attacking, how will they defend? Or I'm defending, how will they attack? To make it a bit more fun, right? That's what I'm suggesting, kind of playing games. But since we're here in the webinar, it's not the same like in the class, but rather we imagine that we're playing cops and robbers kind of game. Okay, I think that's enough. Let's do this. This was slide 313. So we'll put it on our class. And we'll mark it that we went to 313. We'll know. Even though those labs are promised, we are not going to do them because that's just the next time. We can't. I can tell you though what kind of labs they will be. First of all, they will be threat modeling. Will be threat modeling. They will also be gold labs from OWASP. And they will be MIT standard code standards. So let's say MIT coding standards. But that's just not just reading. They give you examples. They say that's the bad code, that's the good code, kind of thing. And today with ChatGPT, you can stick your bad code into ChatGPT and expect it to come up with better code. So that's why I'm taking that away, but just putting in that's what it will be. Okay. So now that should read as a story. We started here, we did this, and then we went to the next section. And again, every time I will be telling some nice news. Now this time we stopped right here. We'll talk more about the latest news the next time. So what I will do now is okay, one recommendation of a movie with philosophical flashback right here. So why not? Let's copy this into our class. It's a seminar after all. And that is because I mentioned that many security professionals are fighters. And here you are, I'll say, many security into martial art. And watching movie qualifies, all right? We'll say that it qualifies being into martial art. All right, now at this point, I will stop share, and that will give you a chance because I was showing something all the time, and I was also talking. So I'll stop talking for a little while and allow you to ask questions or to give some feedback. Which feedback do I want? Of course, what should be next? That's one possibility. Okay, but if not, let's play it by ear. We'll meet next week. We'll cover your suggestions, and we will also continue on our journey. Yes, very important. The Google Doc link. That means the secure webinar. This one right here. And I think if you come late to that meeting, then you don't get the previous links. So that's the one. And I should make it a rule. At the end, I should say, by the way, that is the link. That's where you will see the complete story. If you sign up for the webinar, you will also be getting regular recording. So recording of today. All right. I'm glad. There are three areas that interest me personally, and that's quantum computing, AI, and security. And now I'm covering them all. So, guys, be well. Have a great week. See you next week, and also a great year. Yes, a great time to be in tech. Incredible. I always felt that I lived to reach that time. All right. Goodbye, everybody, and be well. And hopefully, I'll see you again.